then once you get the email, just just don't try to do it. Just don't connect to God. Just computer audio or just so you go to normally use. Don't connect.
Test. Yeah. Actually, I think with the mouse, it's going to work. My test is. Oh, right. How am I going? Oh, okay. I need to see. And we won't have anybody today, but right. And that's why Jordan and I were talking about whoever's chairing a meeting needs to sit here because, I mean, on Mondays it would be the mayor, but in committee meetings. Okay. Hello, Ashley.
Hi there, how are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay with the mask on?
Yes.
Good.
Hi, everybody. This is Megan. I'm just testing my speakers.
Hi, Megan. This is Lily Griego with the U.S. Census. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Lily. Welcome. We can.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And I'll say hello to Lily. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian von Lossberg. I'll be chairing the committee. I'm one of the council members.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
We appreciate you being here. And Lily, we have there's a few housekeeping items at the beginning of the meeting, and then I will move us into our agenda and it'll be clear when you are to start.
Thank you very much.
And do you have a presentation?
I do. It's brief, and I also have just a web link I'll be showing you. So I can click on share screen if that's okay with you.
Yep, that works great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
You'll hear me okay?
Yeah. Okay, my clock shows 12:35, and I believe we are ready to go. So I would like to call Committee of the Whole for today, Wednesday, July 28th, to order. You have often seen the slide with the city website where agendas and related documents are. And Megan, you can go ahead, thanks. And we have our slide for public participation. Same information as usual. If you're a participant in the meeting, you can raise or lower your hand. In Zoom, you can click more on an iPhone or Android phone. And if you're calling in on a landline, you can use *9. And as always, there's a city council voicemail system at 406-552-6012 and the city council group email, council@ci.missoula.mt.us. We can take that down. Today, as is probably obvious, we are doing a bit of a dry run on our hybrid meeting format, and I want to speak to that just briefly. We have several council members here in council chambers and folks remotely via virtual participation. And we have obviously, this is a virtual meeting for the public at this point. This is an opportunity for us to continue to test out the progress we've made with this hybrid format to allow people, including council members, to participate both remotely and in person. I want to acknowledge the guidance that came down from the federal government yesterday regarding masking inside. As is obvious, I'm wearing a mask and I'm hoping that people can hear me okay through this. It seems to be working okay, and we'll see how this goes. And I want to operate from a place of complete transparency. I have been vaccinated. I'm happy to disclose that. My wife and I are also parents of a 9-year-old daughter between 3rd and 4th grade who is not eligible for a vaccine at this time. And I'm going to follow that guidance that we received. If you're tracking the number of cases in the state, they were in the 200s the last 2 days. We qualify as an area with substantially increasing cases. And for those reasons and the reasons articulated in the CDC guidance, you're going to see me masking indoors, and I'm going to provide an opportunity for my colleagues to comment on that as well, either today or next week in upcoming meetings. So I guess on that point, is there any comments anyone here in person would like to make relative to what I just talked about? Okay, not seeing any at this point. So we will move into the logistics of the meeting. And our first item is roll. And Megan, if you wouldn't mind calling roll, that would be great.
Sure. Anderson,
And you're going to need to use your mic, Stacy. Stacy's here.
Becerra,
Present.
Contos,
Here.
Harp,
Here.
Hess,
Here.
Jones,
Here.
Barrett,
Present.
Ramos,
Here.
Cheryl,
She's going to be absent today.
okay, thank you. Basika,
Present.
Von Lotsberg,
Here.
West.
Here.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. We have minutes to approve from June 30th. Are there any changes to those minutes? Seeing, Sandra, is it about minutes?
No, I'm sorry. I missed the opportunity earlier. I just wanted to let everyone know that if I didn't have my little monkey, I would be there in Chambers today, but I am planning, if we do council in person, then I will be there on Monday nights.
Okay, thanks. Seeing no changes to the minutes, those will stand approved. And now we have an opportunity for public comment on non-agenda items. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. I see one hand in the audience. Mr. Larson.
Hi, this is Matt Larson, Ward 3. Good to see you all again. great to see the hybrid setup finally take place. I don't know when we'll actually be able to use it as public members, but it's good that you guys actually finally did that. And also speaking to the CDC mandate and the rising cases in Missoula, I just want you all to acknowledge the virtue signaling and lip service that's being given to the public right now when we have no daily COVID totals from the jail. There's no revised mask policy or revised COVID policy as far as whom we're jailing. And the whole issue of vaccine rates in the jail, let's just call them quote unquote low. So it's putting our entire community at jeopardy. It's been doing this, and there's nothing being done by anyone. We issue COVID totals from other counties, such as Cascade County, Lewis and Clark County, Bozeman, Gallatin County. They issue these totals from the jail every day. So I just want to know what's going on with that and how you guys take this seriously, quote unquote, and wear all these masks in public while we jeopardize the public safety through the intermingling of the public with staff and jailers who go back out into the community. We need to know what's going on, and we need to actually administer vaccines in the Missoula County Detention Facility. And if we are, let's see some totals. Let's see like the total number of inmates who've been vaccinated, because I don't believe anything's being done. But great to see you all make some progress with the hybrid setup. It would be nice to actually use it.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. I will note for the public that council doesn't operate the jail, the county does, and might be more productive to ask those questions of the county. Seeing no other hands for public comment on non-agenda items, we'll go into our regular agenda. We have 2 items today. Our first one is some information. It's an information-only presentation about U.S. Census findings, and I want to welcome Lily. I'm looking for you on Grego, and I hope I pronounced your name right, Lily, but you can go ahead and introduce your item and share your screen as well.
Fantastic. First of all, I want to say thank you to the council to hosting us today. And I say us, the U.S. Census Bureau. My name is Lily Griego. I was the partnership coordinator for the 2020 census for the state of Montana, along with Wyoming and Colorado. And I did congressional outreach for the 12-state Denver region for the U.S. Census. It's my honor to be with you today for a brief update. I actually changed a little bit of my presentation. Megan, I'm gonna apologize up front so Megan doesn't say, what is she doing? Based on just your intro, I thought I would share a couple of other fun things with you. But the purpose for showing our skills today in terms of what we're doing is that we're conducting outreach across the country to include Montana. And I just wanted to start with a thank you. Two points. Number one, thank you to the city of Missoula and all of the partner network throughout the city that helped us on the 2020 census. It is a huge undertaking across the country to count every individual whose feet touch the American soil. And the reason that we do that is to disseminate $675 billion annually of federal dollars that goes into our health system, our educational system. It goes to roads, bridges, all community services, Medicaid, Medicare, lots of different uses that the American public touches every single day that they don't realize goes from the federal government to state government to county government, also to city government. And it just really implores us to get that accurate count so that we know how to budget and serve the American people. The second reason that we do that is that it also decides how many voices we have in Congress. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen at this point in time and go over a handful of things. I know this is being recorded on YouTube, so if you have questions, I highly encourage everyone to reach out to the U.S. Census Bureau. We do have a plethora of information for you, and we want to make sure that you understand how to get to our resources. So I just went off camera so you don't see me looking sideways to my monitor, but what you should see at this point in time is it says table 1 in the upper left-hand corner, and it looks like a Word document. Can I get a verbal yes, you can see that?
We are seeing it, Lily. If I could ask you to maybe increase the magnification a little bit, I think it would help.
Let me take a look, and I appreciate that feedback. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, great. Is that a little bit better?
It is. That's great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So the way that I got to this, and I am going to show you a few clicks at the very top of my screen, Google. Google will get you to any of the census web pages in a quick, easy search. But as I mentioned that I wanted to begin with a thank you, the results of your hard work garnered the state of Montana, and if you can see my mouse moving around on the screen, a population count for the state of 1,085,407 souls. And what you can see in the column to the right are the number of apportioned representatives. And so kind of going back to my original point that the 2020 census, or the census that we conduct every 10 years, is done for federal funding for the next decade. And it's also done to understand how many voices do you have in Congress. Each state has 2 senators. So every state across the country has 2 senators, but then we have the number of US representatives is 435. That number doesn't change, but it moves around the country based on population. So the next thing I want to take you to is a historical apportionment data map. And again, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, I'm at census.gov. Everything that I'm going to show you is on census.gov, by the way. And what I did was I just searched the word apportionment. And that's what I said the 2 reasons for doing the 2020 census were. And I thought I would show you. I just clicked on 1980. Hopefully we don't have any technical issues during this presentation. And you can see that in 1980, the number of representatives for the state of Montana, oh, excuse me, I switched to 2020. So let's just show you 2020, 2 representatives. But if you look at 1980, let's see if this will take me back. We also had 2 representatives for the state of Montana. And then in 1990, because of population shifts, we went down to 1 representative in the House of Representatives. So when we began our work with all the folks across the state of Montana, they said, we want our seat back. So the good news is, and I was very fortunate, my colleagues were not. I worked in Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, as I mentioned. So we gained a seat in Colorado and we gained a seat in Montana. So I'm on the winning edge of knowing what that feels like to gain those seats back for voices in the House of Representatives. So the next thing I wanted to take you to is the final count. What does that look like? And that's where we've started reaching out to folks. So let me go ahead and pull this up very briefly. And I mentioned that I had kind of changed things up. So I want to cover a handful of things. You should see at this point in time on your screen an agenda. This is the same agenda that we're using with local communities across the country to say, how do you access the data once we release it? And while I just showed you the state population, we're talking to folks in local communities such as the city of Missoula, because we know that you're also going to conduct redistricting at the local level. And we know that you want to understand, how do we assess what to do at the local level if there's redistricting, to include city council districts, water districts, school board, anything of that nature. So just as we opened up or completed our count, the story of the numbers is just beginning. And so we're teaching people about other surveys that the Census Bureau conducts, to include the American Community Survey. And again, can I get a verbal? Is this visible to you? And is it big enough that you can see it?
It is.
Fantastic. And if I'm going too fast, just let me know. I'm trying to be cognizant of your time. So what we just spent time doing with your staff, and I just want to say your staff was amazing to work with, extremely responsive. We worked with Montana James and several others, housing folks, community planning development folks, and they were already familiar with the American Community Survey, but we gave them a new version of something called narrative profiles and data profiles. And data profiles have the most frequently requested social, economic, housing and demographic data. The data profiles summarize the data for a single geographic area, both in terms of numbers and percentages, and it covers the most basic information of all of those topics. So it's really helpful to folks, and we give this information all the time, by the way, we say local decision makers such as city council. And so we show folks at the staff level how to pull these reports to give you empowerment to make your decisions, whether that again be community services, budgetary issues, or anything of the like. Now, narrative profiles are short analytic reports derived from the American Community Survey, and they give us both informational paragraphs, text, and bar charts to display highlights of selected social, economic, housing, and demographic estimates from the American Community Survey. And so your staff was fantastic. We went over this hierarchy, so to speak, of geographic breakdowns from the US Census. And we just made sure that folks understood how to access information at the most, minor way of looking at information to include census tracts. And so the city of Missoula does have census tracts, and we wanted folks to be able to say, let's say there's a library who wants to move around a mobile library, and they want to understand if they park it at an intersection, what does the demographic look like for that particular intersection? So that was the purpose of breaking down the geographic locations. And the other reason that it's really important, and I included this little, so this may not be in the handouts that you got, I just plugged this in so that you had a visual of what does the real American Community Survey look like. And this is important for you because you may be asked by, perhaps in some of your town hall meetings or on other city council meetings, why is the Census Bureau still contacting me? I thought we did that last year. And that takes me to another tab up here. Let me see if I can get to it. What does the Census Bureau do all other 9 years and all 365 days of those 9 years? Well, the Census Bureau conducts over 130 surveys and programs every single year. I worked specifically on the 2020 census, but the Census Bureau is busy working on all of these surveys. And I know that you just had commentary on the jails. We actually conduct an annual survey of jails. So a lot of folks don't know the extent, and you can see at the bottom of the page, I'm moving my mouse around, we have 7 pages of the different types of surveys that we are conducting. So we are reaching out to stakeholders across the country every single day. And wouldn't you know, I moved my mouse away, so I lost my PowerPoint. Okay, so the American Community Survey is dropped, as they say, or mailed out to households across the country to include the city of Missoula every single first of the month. And we actually have census takers that go out door to door to collect the information if folks don't return it, because this information is so powerful. And so in conjunction of the decennial census, the American Community Survey collects data, and you can see here it covers 40 topics and supports over 300 evidence-based federal government uses and programs, by the way. So just to give you a quick idea, it's a sampling of 3.5 million addresses per year. In addition to that, it does do the more in-depth questions. It takes about 45 minutes to fill out. And folks don't understand why we need this data. Some folks can see it as a little invasive. So if they call you and they ask you, why should I fill this out? You can say, it's about the services that we turn around and provide to our community in the city of Missoula. And this little slide here, which you should have a copy of, is a side-by-side comparison of the 2 surveys that I'm discussing today. Here is a quick look. Oops, excuse me, my mouse is touchy. Here's a quick look at some of the information that's gathered from the American Community Survey. And you can see this is really in-depth information and understanding what do our communities look like, who's there, what kind of needs do they have, and how should we provide those services back? For example, let's just think about emergency services on just a hypothetical example. If you have emergency services, what languages do you need to provide those services back to? And I love that I always use this example that I am a sandwich generation. So do we need to provide those in terms of local TV if we have folks that just prefer to get news on TV, or can we use social media? And what forms or platforms of social media would we use? Or say you have a grant that comes through to your local police department. This information collected by the ACS helps inform how do you spend your grant and how do you best take advantage of that important resource. In addition to grant writing, this is also fantastic. So again, just sharing with the City Council that we covered this information. It was really intentional that the Census Bureau took a step backwards from feedback that we got, that it was important to access our data and spend less time on our website, which, by the way, I've been on it for a long time. I know how to navigate it. But if you don't know how to navigate it, then you can get lost, and this precious, valuable resource is not being utilized by folks at the local levels. And then I think I already covered this, but just as a friendly reminder, redistricting data will be released on August 16th by the Census Bureau. The state of Montana is eagerly awaiting what we call legacy files. And these are rather complicated. If you're used to working with redistricting, then you know how to work with the legacy files. But the end of September are files that are going to be released for folks like me who haven't worked with legacy files before. And back when they assessed all of this information, they decided, and that was about 9 years ago, by the way, they started working on the 2020 census even before the 2010 census was done. So they decided those would be released in DVDs and jump drives available to the American public for local redistricting. So in my closing, I do want to cover the informational items that you all just discussed as a counsel to the public, that we actually have a COVID-19 resource for your constituents and for your staff and for all of you. And I just wanted to highlight here, I hope this is big enough that you all can see it. It's covid19.census.gov. It's an extremely powerful website with mapping tools that are very, very easy to navigate. And so you can see it says data equity tools. And I know that that's a discussion now with a lot of food insecurity, internet insecurity, and resource insecurity, and also employment issues. So that is one resource we have available to you. And two things I'm going to leave you with is that we did an exploratory survey. One is called the Household Pulse Survey. And again, I left the Google up so that you could see it. I just Googled Census Household Pulse Survey, and it's the first item that comes up. And then I did Google again, Census Business COVID Survey, just in case you have different ideas that stick with your brain after this. So Small Business Pulse Survey. And again, these were exploratory, but they were so successful that we've decided that we're going to keep these going. And what these two surveys are, again, you might hear from your public and they say, why is the Census Bureau contacting me by phone, by text? We have a way on our website to verify that you're legitimately being contacted by a US Census Bureau employee who will protect your data. But this information shows you down to the census tract level how your communities are responding to not just the COVID-19 pandemic, but food insecurity, employment issues, school issues, education. How am I getting my kids to and from school, and how are they responding in terms of mental health? So with that, I will stop sharing my screen. I did cover quite a bit of information. And I will send Megan an updated list of the informational items I just covered. And I will send her the slide that I plugged in, just the image of the American Community Survey. So it was a multitude of things, but I just wanted to recap that redistricting is getting more exciting as we speak. And also we have a myriad of other programs that serve the American people. And we want to make sure that City Council and City of Missoula knows that there is a ton of information that can inform you and your staff and the community at all local levels.
Thank you so much, Ms. Grego. And you, two things, we agree, our staff is amazing. And secondly, you couldn't be more correct, redistricting gets more exciting as the day goes by. So thank you. Any questions for my colleagues here or online? All right, not seeing any. I'll take brief public comment. Oh, sorry. Oh. Heather, go ahead.
Thanks. Lily, I really appreciate this presentation. I think all of us have a little bit of a data geek inside of us, so it's really nice to be able to find another person who knows how to channel this information. Out of curiosity, having not had really a great opportunity yet to dive into the websites that you referred to today, but one that I have utilized in the past is censusreporter.org, which apparently is based in Illinois. Is this similar information loaded into that particular portal as well?
Excellent question. I just want to say thank you because I literally just did a presentation with somebody with the Albany County Libraries in the city, or excuse me, in the state of Wyoming. And the example that I used is what she had. It was that they received a grant. They used census data to write their grant. They got the grant money, and then they were going to take their mobile library that has Wi-Fi services and go park it in a community. And they wanted to target Spanish-speaking families with children under the age of 15. We gave them the data to find 6 intersections within the county where they would be most resourceful for their community folks. The website that I just showed you was being updated the day that we did our PowerPoint and our meeting. So we went to the website that you just noted, and they use all of our data to plug into theirs. Most folks use our data on a daily basis and don't even know. Oftentimes you'll look at data from the internet, from Google, and you just don't know that it's actually it's stemming from the collection from the US Census Bureau. So we are the largest data gatherer in the country, and we share it widely. I heard somebody say, and I don't mean to go on too long here, that our information is free. One of the things I would say is that this is gathered with the intention through taxpayer dollars. I'm a federal employee of serving the American people. So yes, you are correct. That information from that other website is ours. And I'm glad that they're using it in such a useful way.
Great. Thank you very much, Lily.
Thanks. Mr. Larson, do you have public comment on the census information? Mr. Larson? Mr. Larson, you're breaking up pretty badly. Not able to hear you. Okay, it is not working. We will. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Larson, it's not working. Okay, thanks again, Ms. Grego, really appreciate it. You're welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting, but I'm guessing that you will not, but thanks again.
Thank you. Everyone have a great day. Be safe.
All right, you too. All right, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is about a resolution establishing the city's commitment to a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive Missoula. And I believe Ms. Gockler is going to open presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, City Council and guests. My name is Donna Gockler. I am the Director of City of Missoula Parks and Recreation, but I'm here before you today on behalf of all of the City of Missoula and all of our employees to talk to you a little bit about a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusionary Missoula. In January of 2021, Missoula City became a cohort, one of 10 across the nation. We have the opportunity to work with the National League of Cities for some technical guidance on how we can be more inclusionary, how our leadership and our services both reflect and are delivered to all citizens, regardless of demographics. And once we were honored with this opportunity with the National League of Cities, we reached out to our partners and have formed a local cohort. And that cohort is made up largely of city government, or local government, I should say. and leaders in our health industry. So we have representatives in the cohort from the University of Montana, from Missoula County Public Schools, the All Nations Health Center, Missoula City County Health Department, and of course the City of Missoula as the liaison to the League of Cities. Today, before you, we have a resolution that essentially recommits and reestablishes our efforts as a city to look truly deeply and intentionally at our internal mechanisms, policies, and procedures, and also to engage more fully with our community. This is about, building on past successes, as well as better understanding perhaps times when we have not been so successful. We think it's incredibly important in that we have opportunity for every resident in Missoula and across Missoula County to be successful. Those are goals in the city council's strategic goals. They're in the mayor's goals. And we see that over and over in growth policy and virtually every plan that we adopt. We talk frequently about serving all populations, from things like parks and recreation plans, housing plans, mobility plans, climate resiliency, and it goes on and on. We know economically and financially that we are more successful as a community when we are all successful, because it means that all people have access to housing, to jobs, to childcare, to food and nutrition, and to outdoor environments and wellness. And so while we've done much work already through Invest Health, many of you are familiar with those efforts and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation grants, and the work that was largely led by Lisa Biskevich of the Health Department, Lavelle Means of CPDI. And we have been doing work during the pandemic in a significant way through all of our departments to do a better job at serving those who were left behind. We recognize that through the pandemic, we've seen a greater separation of the haves and the have-nots, and a reduction of the middle class. And we are finding that we have shortfalls in our service industries, often those positions that are paid the least in our community. So this is an effort to recognize all populations and to specifically and intentionally focus through investments using a lens of equity to give everybody an opportunity for equal success. And so I've been in government for a really long time. I've been doing this kind of work since 1981, and I have always approached my job as I need to be equal. And what I have not recognized is equal does not always mean equality and equal opportunity at success. So with that, what we'd like to do today is first, I want to recognize that we have Jamar Galbraith in the attendees. He is with Missoula County and the County Equity Coordinator. And I have with me today Ashley Brittner Wells. She is a Bacchus Fellow student and has been doing a ton of work for all of us on behalf of the city. And she's going to present our slideshow for you today to go through some of the most poignant points and what we hope to do. And then I want to also, of course, recognize Aaron Pahan, who has been my co-leader, who fortunately has opportunity to go east and visit family this week. And of course, Dale Bickle, our Chief Administrative Officer, who I just want to share with you has been recognized by the National League of Cities. Not every city has a leader like Dale, who is out front and behind us 100% all of the time. And so I just wanted to take a moment to recognize his incredible leadership. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley for the PowerPoint presentation. And then I'll touch on a few details and turn it back over to council for discussion and questions. Ashley?
Hello, council. Thank you so much for having me this afternoon. Is it okay if I share my screen at this point?
Yes, go ahead.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Let me see if I can do this larger here. All right. So I am Ashley Brittner Wells. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the Bacchus Leaders Montana Fellow and the National League of Cities Jedi Coordinator for the City of Missoula. I'm presenting the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Resolution to you all this afternoon, or the Jedi Resolution as we like to call it. A commitment to social equity in city government is needed for marginalization and disparity to cease to exist for underrepresented groups in our community. This is an overview of the demographics of Missoula County. I really enjoyed Lily's presentation because I thought we could use her data and information from the most current census to help inform some of the work that we're going to be doing and moving forward. This is an overview of the 2019 census. Notably, 43% of residents in Missoula County have a bachelor's degree or higher. 16.2% are over the age of 65, and 5% of Missoula County residents speak a language other than English at home. The City of Missoula has taken a stance and affirmed its commitment to social equity in a variety of ways over the last few years. Donna mentioned a few of those. The City County Health Department's Missoula Invest Health Initiative through the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the Community Planning, Development, and Innovation Department's Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and others. That commitment has become more intentional as we look at what we are doing and hopefully invest resources in some of the following ways on this historical timeline. So the 2020-2023 Missoula Strategic Plan. As Donna mentioned, we became a part of the cohort for the City of Missoula National League of Cities in 2021. In November of 2020, City Council, you all know this, hired the Listening, Engaging, Action, Reflection Network, or Learn Missoula, to, through their research, they seek to determine the level of municipal systems awareness of implicit and explicit biases and inequities toward BIPOC residents and how they use data to make changes. They are centering BIPOC voices through research, interviews, and data collection. The NLC cohort partners were identified and the cohort began meeting in February and March of 2021. And then just last week on July 19th, part of our NLC cohort work that I'll go over a little bit in just a moment here is this Jedi Advisory Board work group, which the county is leading, led by Jamar Galbraith, the equity coordinator for the county. And Donna mentioned he's going to speak at the end of this as well. The Jedi Advisory Board role is largely to be determined, but it is a board that will facilitate community-driven Jedi efforts at the city and the county. And we're in the middle of forming that work group, and they are going to help inform what exactly the Jedi Advisory Board's role will be. Last week as well, Missoula County considered a parallel Jedi resolution presented to the Board of County Commissioners, and it is currently open for public comment. And then that brings us up to today, you all considering our Jedi resolution. Since January, a lot of this work has been, coming from the NLC Cities of Opportunity cohort. It's come out of that involvement. It's comprised of the following organizations, which Donna introduced as well, but this is the slide that kind of shows all of the participants of that group. It's made up of leaders representing local government, public health, education, nonprofit organizations, engaging and aligning our equity efforts as they relate to marginalized residents within our community. The next slide is our Missoula Action Roadmap. It is a snapshot of some of the work, the overarching work that we are planning to do with the NLC cohort. It has been called a collective impact plan in some of our National League of Cities technical assistance sessions with our consultants from the National League of Cities. Decision makers from our cohort organizations have developed this shared draft action roadmap as a team. Some of the cities that are in the cohort are, other than us, are focusing on one very specific goal. We have taken the collective impact plan approach. Having cohort members, as Donna said, like Dale in the room, have strengthened our cohort and helped move it forward to where we are today and to kind of take on some of these larger overarching goals as a community. The roadmap is not all inclusive of the work we are doing or planning to do. It is a draft, and we still need to convene with the community to get their feedback. But we want to align and collaborate on current efforts of the many organizations in the community that are doing equity work, how we can help them, and vice versa. Some of those groups and organizations doing this type of work have been solicited by Jamar to be a part of the Jedi Advisory Board work group. So it's all a collaboration. We see it as a really, inclusive collaboration with the community. This roadmap creates guidelines toward 5 overarching outcomes, which are the second from the right on this slide, all under our shared vision of a Jedi Missoula, a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive Missoula, free of systemic and structural inequalities, where our community is connected and honors our individualities, a healthy and vibrant community where we are welcomed and valued, and our physical, mental, social, and spiritual needs are met. So what is social equity? Social equity is the active commitment to fairness, justice, and equality in the formulation and implementation of public policy, distribution of public services, and management of all institutions serving the public directly or by contract. We should seek to prevent and reduce inequality, unfairness, and injustice based on significant social characteristics, and to promote greater equality and access to services, procedural fairness, quality of services, and social outcomes. While equality focuses on inputs being equivalent, equity focuses on outcomes being equivalent. And as public administrators, we should empower the participation of all persons in the political process. It was identified in 2019 as one of the 12 grand challenges of public administration. And as public administrators and policymakers, we must develop a broader understanding of the elements and implications of social equity. Not just equitable access to programs and services, but the unhindered ability to engage in the political process, equitable educational and economic opportunities, and to examine nearly all policies and practices. Notably, this is work that we are attempting to do with our NLC cohort and hopefully moving forward with our resolution today. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are strategies employed by other vibrant communities to ensure everyone has a fair and just access to the resources they need for health, social, and economic well-being. And the city can better position itself to achieve its strategic goals by implementing proven equity practices and policies to address significant inequity in health outcomes and many other disparities that decrease the quality of life for many Missoula residents. This includes low-income communities, which are disproportionately represented by marginalized populations, including people of color, LGBTQIA+ two-spirit, persons with disabilities, aging adults, and where these identities intersect. Intersectionality is the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender as they apply to a given individual or social group, regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. It's important to note that residents can occupy multiple of these identities and experience disparities in multiple realms. From the 2020 Missoula Invest Health report, the overarching goal is health equity. If we address inequities and social determinants of health in areas like income, education, housing, access to built environment, and access to healthcare, and by focusing on the communities where disparities currently exist, it improves equity for everyone in our community. Public policy can help improve social determinants of health, which improves residents' quality of life and life expectancy. So you may be familiar with this illustration or something like it, depicting the difference between equality, equity, and justice. Equality is where residents receive the same opportunities. So that's on the left. You see everyone's given the same step stool, but it's still not enough to see over that fence. Equity is where each person receives the same amount of something to create similar conditions. So you can see that they all have the same vantage point when they're given step stools to have that same outlook. Justice considers the outcome being the same for everyone and removes barriers for all. The goals of the Jedi resolution are to work collaboratively with our local Jedi cohort to create a shared roadmap to equity, to support the county-led efforts, create a Jedi advisory board and supporting the Jedi advisory board work group, to apply findings from our Learn audit, which we have already done and are currently continuing to do, to call upon all residents to engage in this critically important work, and to prioritize and advance efforts based on our work to date and develop a Jedi plan, including the necessary professional services and support staff to realize the plan. The investments in equity that you are not asking to be approved today, we're not asking for approval of the budget request, but this is part of the resolution itself. Professional consultants to review and revise our policies, procedures, and initiatives to better reflect Jedi, to ensure equitable delivery of City of Missoula services, and for Jedi training for leadership and staff, including staff support to support the ongoing effort. We believe the Jedi resolution will help plant a flag working to continue to address Jedi within the City of Missoula with intentionality moving forward. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Ashley. Donna, I think you had mentioned that Jamar Galbraith from the county wanted to speak. Is that the right time?
Yes, I think what I'd like to do, Brian, if you're okay, is I'll just quickly bring up the resolution for everybody's viewing. And I won't take the time to read through the resolution because Ashley has already touched on the highlights of that. But I wanted to make sure that you're all aware that it is in your packet and that those viewing have an opportunity. Much of this, first of all, we recognize our ancestral lands. We recognize the cohort, the partners, prior commitments, prior laws, ordinances, or policies that council has passed, plans that have been adopted, our commitment to health and wellness of all citizens, equal opportunity, which has always been in the forefront. We do have evidence-based research that disparities are greater for certain populations, and that we recognize that sometimes investments through a lens of equity can provide just that opportunity that is necessary for a fully engaged, successful resident of our community. We definitely want to commit to this work. And one thing that I want to emphasize before I turn it back over to council and give Jamar an opportunity to speak is we fully recognize that we are, while we've been doing this work in some way for many years, we are at a very beginning point of doing the work with intention and reaching those citizens who do not feel like they are part of the process. And these citizens are often from our BIPOC communities, from our LGBTQ plus, and they are also working white poor. We saw during the pandemic, for example, incredible discrimination towards aging. So this is work for all populations with a focus on those populations that have been most marginalized through history. Not, I don't believe intentionally by city leadership, but our systems have been here a long time and they are very deep and ingrained. And we have an opportunity working together to engage everyone for a better Jedi Missoula. Thank you, Donna. Jamar, I want to welcome you to the meeting. I see Jamar G and then Jamar Galbraith, and I just think I saw you raise your hand. I am happy to also promote you to a panelist if you'd like, or is this working, Jamar?
Hi, good afternoon. I think this is working. Can you all hear me okay?
We can.
Excellent. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just want to share my appreciations for you as our city leadership and for our, again, as Donna mentioned already, engaging in this critical work. I think that a couple of things I want to share is that, sort of the work that we are doing is really to help align pre-existing work and build off of the pre-existing work that's already been being done in our communities. And also have an opportunity to establish and understand what our community really looks like. And I think some of the challenges and being a part of the process of the national cities and in other conversations is that communities don't look like Missoula. And I'm really excited to be able to learn what this community, to learn how we can support this work intentionally within our structures as local government in order to provide better access for all of our community members. I'm excited to have been part of this presentation and learn we gained another representative. And I think that just by nature of having that one more voice at the national level is really reflective and indicative of some of the things that we're working towards today. And so with that, this county is adopting, following the lead here of the city, adopting a similar mirrored resolution that is making its way through the public comment period. That resolution was introduced to the Board of County Commissioners July 22nd, so last Thursday. The public comment period is open until August 5th. And which point the public comment period will close, and then we'll have time to incorporate the feedback into the resolution before we ask the commissioners to take action on it on August 12th. Okay, so once again, those dates are July 22nd is when it began at before the Board of County Commissioners. Public comment period is open until August 5th. And we will be looking to have the Board of County Commissioners take action on August 12th. And again, thank you all so much for the work that you do for our communities. Thank you all so much for being part of this. I know that it's certainly not easy, and I hope that you all are able to enjoy some fresh air for us soon as the smoke clears up.
Thank you so much, Jamar. Go back to council, and I see Mr. Bickle with his hand up. Dale. I can hear you. Are you on a mic? Oh, okay.
Pull it in. Thank you. I wanted to just build on a little bit of what the cohort and what the members of the cohort are doing related to this. So you saw Ashley's slide of the big broad goals and objectives that we have really at the community related to equity.
We can't hear Dale. I'm sorry.
I was watching Mirta and Sanders' faces, and I suspected. I don't think the mic is picking you up well enough, Dale. We will never be free of the green light on the mic issue.
Can you hear me?
Mirta, Sandra, yes.
So Dale Bickle, Chief Administrative Officer. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about this resolution. We've been working hard, all 5 organizations, as part of this cohort. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how the city's approach versus the others' approach. You saw on the slide that showed the objectives that we've created out of the cohort. And the city and county are similarly organized local governments. We do these types of things by resolution. Our partners in this will do it differently. Missoula County Public Schools is weaving deep equity principles into their strategic plan. The University of Montana is working on similar plans and working on adding specific staff to be able to do all this. And how we're gonna keep working on this together is through that Jedi Advisory Council, where Jamar is leading that effort to create. And that will provide a forum where we are being able to work together to get on all of these particular projects, keep us accountable related to the goals that we want to seek, and just be a resource for not only members of the team, but for the community itself. So this resolution is specifically related to the city government business, right? But our participation in that, and continued participation in the cohort and the advisory council will be what how we weave this into the community.
Thanks. Number of, you might want to stay up there, Dale, I don't know. Number of people queued up, so I'm going to go through that queue and questions, and I'm also will entertain a motion. Gwen.
Thanks for the presentations today by everyone. This is really interesting, and I think it's a really great step forward. I did have a couple of questions, and the first one, maybe Donna and then maybe Jamar, you guys could address it. I just wanted you to speak a little bit more about the Learn team, which we set up last summer, and it certainly stretched into much longer than the initially anticipated 12-week period. Could you just speak a little bit more about where that process is at in terms of the audit information they were collecting and how that will be woven into this Jedi resolution process that you're proposing? How
Yes.
those things will be used, I guess.
I can speak to that. Donna Gockler, Parks and Recreation. The Learn process will continue through the end of this calendar year. We have had a number of meetings and updates with Dr. Warner and other members of Learn as they go through the iterative process. So we've had our website reviewed and already been making changes and edits to more appropriately reflect our community and goals. Different departments have had some of their primary public-facing documents reviewed and edited. We're looking closely at Rule 33, which is about advisory groups and committees and how more citizens can be engaged. And we've also, hats off to Angela and our Human Resources Department. There's been an immense amount of work in HR. Learn has also been visiting with police, neighborhoods, housing, and parks and recreation. For starters, we will continue that work through the year, and important to note that Learn was reviewed the resolution, made a number of excellent edits that were incorporated, and so we have really been relying on Learn for immediate review of updated new documents and processes that are being put out, while we're also having them look back at some of the existing. And so that process continues. It's going well, and we expect to have a report for you later in this year.
Thanks.
Thank you. May I have a follow-up?
Sure. And I'm just going to encourage everyone, bring that mic right up to your mouth. And I've noticed I'm bumping the mic a lot with my mask, so I apologize, but it seems to pick up better if it's very close.
Okay, can you hear me? I guess you can. And next time I need to get the thing on the mic, but I'll baby steps, as we're saying. Thanks. And I did have a follow-up. Thank you for that, Donna. And it helps to flesh out where the Learn team is at. I know it's been a ton of work this year. And then I had a question on a completely different topic besides the Learn team. And that was, this resolution is calling for some additional staff to work on implementing these structures. And I appreciated you, Donna, your language about this is really the beginning. And I don't think any of us know exactly how far down the road we need to go until we feel like we get somewhere significant, but it's all a learning process. But this, I guess it sounds like this is the first phase. And with the staffing budget requests that are in here, is this a 1 year, or are you anticipating 2 years? And then there's a regroup and we see what the next phase is, or what, do you have a sense of what the future holds and what this these budget requests encompass?
We do reference the budget request, of course, in the resolution, because like most actions by City Council, it generally requires some sort of resources to implement them. The initial request that you'll see in a couple of weeks during Budget Committee of the Whole includes 2 requests. One is a one-time for consulting services to help us to take a deeper dive into our policies as it relates to service to all residents of Missoula, and to help us expedite changes in those processes, internal trainings for city department employees, and in workplace culture. So we are definitely in an inclusive environment, a good place, a good workplace culture, and also a good place to engage in government and in leadership. So that's a $150,000 ask. It will also include a significant public component. It doesn't make sense. We don't do government to people, we do government with people. And so we need ways to do significant outreach, and that outreach has to be different than the way it's always looked in local government. And so it'll be a bit more time consuming because we need to build trust. So that's one of the asks. The second ask is an ongoing for about $80,000 per year. And that would be to provide the initial staffing support. It's been wonderful having Ashley as our Baucus Fellowship. And there is an immense amount of work, as you can imagine, in doing outreach. And we need an employee similar to what the county has in Jamar, similar to what Ashley is doing for us this year and today, to help us continue these efforts with intention and to not let things move by the wayside with the latest and greatest emergency that pops up, as it always does in city government. We expect that to be ongoing. We expect that the $150,000 one-time ask will certainly result in other specific to-dos. We just don't know what those will be exactly at this point because we feel we need to hear from the public.
Thank you. That really helps clarify that for me. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Sandra.
Thank you. I just had a procedural question. Are we setting a public hearing for this today, or are we adopting it today?
The motion is to adopt or deny the resolution, and then that would be taken, committee actions are advisory and council actions on Monday evenings are then final. So.
Okay, thank you.
Brian?
Okay. Oh, go ahead, Donna.
I just wanted to add one thing based on the question. And we do have all of this information, or we'll have it all posted at Engage Missoula. And we very much are anticipating feedback. And then we are suggesting that we delay final adoption till August 9th, Monday night, August 9th, to give residents an opportunity to speak to the resolution.
Great. Thank you for the clarification. Mirta.
Thank you. I just want to thank Dale, Donna, Aaron, Ashley, our mayor, the commissioners, and all the city departments for all your work on this. I believe this resolution will help us as a community be intentionally inclusive, so that everyone, regardless of their skin color, will have access to government and all the wonderful things that our community has to offer. As Donna mentioned, there are systemic barriers that have made it incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for our marginalized members of the community to have equal access to things like housing and healthcare, infrastructure and education. So I believe that this resolution is the first step, and it will signal our continued commitment to achieving the goal of being a more inclusive and more equitable city. So I'm fully supportive of it, committed to the work that will follow, because we will have work to do. We're trying to break barriers that have been in place for decades, if not longer. And I'm definitely committed to the financial commitment that will help all this work come to fruition. So fully supportive, and if you need a motion, I'll be happy to make that motion.
I do need a motion, and I will take that as making the motion.
Okay.
Which is in order. Thank you. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just had a quick question procedurally. Would we be able to change this, amend it, to set a public hearing on Monday the 2nd and then final consideration on the 9th, or does that not meet public notification?
So we don't have a meeting on Monday the 2nd.
Oh, So Monday, the 9th, and then have a final consideration on the 16th, just so that it can be held open, because it's an important discussion that people want to comment on.
Donna, do you have,
I have no objection, and it is a resolution of this nature is not one that we're required to have a public hearing, but a council can certainly host a public hearing because you want to have one. I'll defer to Jim if I'm misstepping any important policy and adoption, but I think we could do the public here, hold it as a public hearing, bring back to you a short presentation, and then you could choose to adopt it on August 16th.
great. So that would be consistent. It's not required for resolution, just so everyone's clear, but it's certainly our prerogative to do that. So I take that as a request, Jesse, to basically our next council meeting is, and this is something we had discussed before, we don't have one. It's a little out of order, a little unusual. We don't have one this coming Monday. We had planned that long in advance at the beginning of the year. But it could come out of committee on the 9th and then be held for a week like we've done with many things to the 16th.
Yeah, so just amend the action tonight to set the public hearing for the 9th and then final consideration on the 16th, just to keep consistent with the LGBTQ ordinance, and it'll allow more opportunities for the public and less confusion, I think.
Mirta, are you amenable to that?
Point of order. I believe we have to have council set it on a Monday night. I'm sorry, it has to go to Monday night to set the public hearing. Don't we have another Monday in there? We have to, so there's actually 3 Monday nights in a row.
That threw me the last time we had this discussion. I feel like I'm doing a Groundhog Day. It can come out of committee. So from a practical standpoint, it can come out of committee on the 9th from action today in committee, and then we can hold it as an item. It's not exactly the same as the official public hearing route, but it is effectively the same, and we can hold it open until the 16th. Jordan, I'm looking at you also for confirmation on this. So we don't have to take action. I believe we can do this where we don't have to take action on the 9th to set the public hearing. We can move it out of committee, take it up on the 9th, and hold it open, which is essentially the same thing. Was that clear as mud for everybody? Jordan?
I think that's accurate. And I think you could also put in the motion that it would be held for final consideration on the 16th, and then it would show up in our agenda in that place. So it would basically be like under committee reports and then under final action.
That's the way I'm interpreting it. So Mirta, are you comfortable with that, with amending the motion to indicate that we'll take it up, and let's do that under committee reports on Monday the 9th for final, and will be held for final consideration on the 16th?
I am, as long as it doesn't interfere with any the schedule process for staff. So
Dale is making his way to the microphone.
What?
Hang on, Dale is.
I just want to make a clarification to make sure we do this right. While not formally setting a public hearing, it's the council's intent to just show that we are going to have this on Monday, August the 9th, the resolution, and with final consideration on August 16th.
That's correct.
And
So
we don't have to do the traditional legal advertising for public hearing. That's my ultimate question then. Okay.
Yes, that is correct. We would have the staff report on Monday the 9th with final consideration on the 16th.
Great.
We can include that information at the Engage Missoula site too.
Great. Julie.
I will be quick because I don't have any better words than my colleague Mirta Becerra just said. I am fully in support of this motion and very happy to see it moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks. Stacy. And I'll just remind people we're short of time.
Okay, so, great. I just want to point out, I feel like a lot of the good work that we did last summer put us in the opportunity to be a part of this cohort through the National League of Cities and Towns. Dale or Donna or Ashley might be able to speak better to this, but I think we're one of the smallest cities that is a part of this national pilot program. And I think
because of the investment in the Learn team, the data that's collected and how that data will be incorporated into this, that we are in a better position to be able to take full advantage of this opportunity. My question is for Dale or Donna. Last year in the budget, we allocated money for the Learn team, $75,000. And there is a couple budget requests in this, along with this opportunity. The Learn team is sort of phasing out with and turning over their information, and we're building upon that. And so that budget line item of $75,000 from last year, is that not funded in this budget?
I'll answer that. That was a one-time, since I was responsible for driving it, that was a one-time budget request, knowing that we would make successive investments in equity work each year, but not knowing what those would be.
Perfect, great. So, and I think that I appreciate you pointing that out, because I think it's like we've already established an investment in equity work, and this is, continuing that investment in equity work as we as a community see as an important use. So I'm in support. Thank you.
Thanks. I see you, Sandra. Mr. Nugent has raised his hand, so I'm going to go to Jim quickly.
Yeah, I would prefer him go first.
I just want to remind you, Brian, that I don't think you've had public comment yet today.
I'm well aware of that, Jim. I'm going to get there. We have a motion. I'm going through council, and then Sandra, go ahead.
So I know that we're doing things unconventionally. And so like, we're not technically setting a public hearing, but we kind of are. So I do have some concerns with this, but because we're kind of setting a public hearing, I would rather get this out of committee and make my concerns available later after I hear public comment. So therefore I will be voting yes on it today.
Understood. Thanks. Okay, seeing that, I will go to public comment. Mr. Larson.
Yes, City Council, this is Matt Larson, Ward 3. The only public comment today, but that's neither here nor there. Congrats on this Jedi Council. This sounds really cool. But let's also recognize the jail is still 24.6% Native in its general population. Let's also recognize that only 49 of 116 police officers on MPD are CIT certified. That's the Crisis Intervention Team, or the Mobile Support Team, which, as I heard, has met its objective and is no longer operational. But I'd love to hear some commentary on that. You also mentioned health and wellness for all people in this community. You also mentioned earlier, Mr. von Lossberg, about how my discussions about the county's operation of the jail might be better voiced at the county. Yet this is a whole collaborative, right? Like, we're a community and we all collaborate. To ask that you talk to the jailers, I don't think is out of line. But it's equivocal to the expectations and the par for the course of this city council as a whole, where we talk about doing stuff as opposed to doing stuff. And maybe we should just, instead of doing studies, learn to invest in some of the facilities and services needed. Maybe we should learn to stop giving lip service and virtue signaling to the community. Maybe we should also listen to the public about redirecting the $18.4 million of the police department budget every year. Maybe we should also let the public look at the budget, as opposed to the 3% of new additions that are added to the budget every year. But again, let's not get out of the way of this off topic of this great Jedi Council that's going to be convened with the mayor's hand-selected county commissioners. It's just ridiculous, but go ahead and do it, because it's just a plan and there's no harm in making plans. But I just don't see any action from you guys. I don't see any action at all, and neither does the entire community. You pass everything you can to raise the rent for these regular people, and then you make this Jedi Council to kind of figure out what's going on. You guys are the problem. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for that. And for the record, I didn't indicate it and the comment was out of line. I simply made a suggestion around the forum. Stacy.
Just a point of clarification, he want to make sure on the record, the folks know the mobile crisis unit is up, going, and still funded, and is continuing to serve our community every day. So just wanted to make sure that that misrepresentation was not out there.
All right, Mr. Ramos on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to state that I'm going to be voting for this today, essentially set the public hearing, though I have not made up my mind on how I'm going to vote under final consideration.
Thanks. And this has my full support as well. I'll expand on that at another time. We have taken public comment. We have a motion on the floor. Again, that motion would bring this resolution out to the council meeting under committee reports on Monday, the 9th, and would be held for final consideration on the 16th. So just wanted to remind people of that. And with that, Megan, would it be possible to do a roll call vote?
Sure. Stacey Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Rossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Great. All yeses, no nos, one absent. Thank you.
Great. And again, just to beat a dead horse, though that was unanimous, we will bring this out under committee reports, not on the consent agenda, on our next council meeting, which would be Monday, the 9th. With that, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, it's weird doing something.